Today we're going to talk about how to write a research question. Now, a research question typically looks like this. How does blank affect blank? Or how does one thing affect something else? Now, we have terms that we use to represent the things that go in these blanks, which are the independent variable and the dependent variable. So I'll talk about what each of these terms mean, and then I will show you two examples so you can see what it looks like when your research question is fully written out. So the independent variable is the thing that you are changing in your experiment, and the dependent variable is what you are measuring. So the dependent variable depends on how you change the independent variable. So let's say I want to know how the force that I'm hitting a drum with in a drum set affects how loud the noise is. So in this case, the force would be my independent variable because I can just change that almost however I want. I can hit it as softly as I want or as hard as I want without breaking the actual drum, of course. The dependent variable in this case would be how loud the noise is because it depends on how hard I'm hitting the drum. I can't just change the noise by itself, but I can change something else, how hard I'm hitting the drum, to affect how loud the noise is. So the noise depends on how hard I hit the drum. So let's look at an example. My research question here is, how does the voltage of a battery affect the brightness of a light bulb? So I'm going to highlight my independent variable in green and my dependent variable in orange. But how do I know which is which? Let's scroll back up to the sentence frame that I showed you at the beginning. How does the independent variable affect the dependent variable? Generally speaking, the independent variable will come first and the dependent variable will come second. So let's start with that and apply that to our research question. How does the voltage of a battery affect the brightness of a light bulb? Well, in this case, the voltage of the battery is going to be my independent variable, and the brightness of the light bulb is going to be my dependent variable. So the voltage of the battery is something that is well within my control. It's really easy to change. I could just use a 9-volt battery or a AAA battery, which has 1.5 volts, or 2D batteries, which has 3 volts. I can just choose whatever voltage I want. But the brightness of the light bulb depends on the voltage of the battery. So that's what makes it the dependent variable and what makes the voltage the independent variable. So now let's look at another example and do the same thing. How does the volume of a sound affect the distance that sound travels? So in this case, the volume is going to be my independent variable, so I'll highlight it in green. And then the distance that sound travels is my dependent variable, so I'll highlight it in orange. Now, kind of similar to the last example, the volume of the sound is easy for me to change. I can just turn the volume knob, or I can just make it louder on my phone or on my speaker or whatever other device I'm using. But the distance depends on how loud it is. If it's at a really low volume, you're not going to be able to hear it as far away, but if it's really loud, you will. So the distance that sound travels is the dependent variable because it depends on how loud the sound is or how high the volume is. So hopefully this was a helpful introduction to research questions, and you can start to practice this on your own and get a head start on the research question for your own project.